and welcome back to the Publisher Podcast from Media Voices. I'm Esther Thorpe, and this season we're bringing you the best sessions from the Definitive AI Forum for Media, Information and Events, which we held with Flashes and Flames in London at the end of last year. As always, each episode this season will be accompanied by a write-up of the key takeaways, which you can find on our site, voices.media, or get delivered straight into your inbox every Tuesday by subscribing to the Publisher newsletter, which you can also find at voices.media. This week we're featuring a panel discussion on how AI is reshaping B2B data and information companies. On the panel, which was moderated by Natasha Christie-Miller, were Dean Curtis, CEO at LexisNexis Risk Solutions, Nicola Tillin, EVP of Lines Intelligence, Christopher Gasson, founder at Global Water Intelligence, and John Barnes, Chief Digital Officer at William Reed. The panel discussed a variety of approaches to partnering and licensing content to AI companies, balancing this with protecting IP and value, and ways AI is being used to enhance products for both small and large B2B players. The panel also shared how they're using AI internally and where others can get started. Here's Natasha kicking the panel off.
As I see it, there's a number of questions that media owners need to answer, and they may have already answered them once, but maybe rethinking their first answers. Maybe the second answer is better than the first. But the questions I'm asking are, what licensing deals should we do? How do I protect my IP? How can AI improve internal operations and productivity? How can AI help with product development and content generation? How can AI improve the customer experience? And what revenues are at risk, already under attack, and what do I do about it? So I'm joined by these four gorgeous giants of B2B, and our aim is to give you as many tips and practical examples of what's gone well, and importantly, what's not gone well, in the hope that it helps your businesses. So I'm going to introduce you first. Christopher Gasson has been the owner and CEO of Global Water Intelligence for 23 years. Global Water Intelligence delivers news, data, and events for the international water industry. This is a really global business. Only 5% of the 10 million revenues come from the UK. And Christopher's going to share a really, really strong product development story and innovation within your business. Dean Curtis is CEO at LexisNexis, Risk Solutions and Data Services, division of RELX. It's a FTSE 10 business. Dean began the international risk business back in 2013. Prior to RELX, Dean has had a number of roles across banking and PE and startups, and rather fabulously, a professional footballer, both on the pitch and as a coach. And Dean talks about this time as forming the blueprint of his leadership style. Dean sits on the board of a number of charities and is committed to making the world a better place. Nicola has worked in B2B events, data and insights businesses her whole career, and now runs the 30 million plus Lines Intelligence business. It's a subscriptions business and brings together all of the intelligence products of Walk, Canline, Contagious, Effie, and Acuity Pricing. All of that was part of Essential. Now it's part of Informer. Nicola is a very popular leader, and only last week I was sitting next to somebody who was telling me how much they adore working for you. John has been Chief Digital Officer at William Reed since June 2020 and is responsible for driving digital transformation across the business. He was appointed as the first chair of the PPA Digital Collective and AI Task Force in May last year. John's got nearly 40 years' experience in business, media and digital transformation, roles at Incisive, VNU, and many folk look to John in B2B media for his leadership in all things digital and technical. So that's who we are. I'm Natasha Christie-Miller, and I've run a few media businesses in the past. So let's kick off with, where are you all on AI partnership deals? I know this can be a bit sensitive, so only share what you want, but I'm really interested in what your first reactions were to the sort of tantalizing opportunity of new revenues in licensing to AI companies, and whether your initial thoughts are where you still are now. Dean, I'm going to start with you.
There was some introduction. I don't know what I'm going to say now.
Talk football, we'll all like that.
Yeah. So I think the first thing, if you step back before you answer the question, I guess, is unique content is important. AI doesn't create unique content in the true sense. So it really is just it's referred to in our business as a statistical parrot, right? So I think if you start with that premise, I think that that's important. The second thing is, in any market, you need scarcity. And unique content, by very definition, is scarce. Yep. And I think as a collective, we need to think about how we manage that. And it's worth diving in. What do I mean by that? 10 years ago, for every 2 pages you gave Google, it gave you a visitor back, right? You bring that forward to 6 months ago, it's every 6 pages they give you a visitor back. And in that period of time, the internet usage has gone from 4 to 6 billion, so you'd expect that would be better for us. If you look at ChatGPT, 6 months ago, it was 250 pages for 1 visitor. It's now 1,500 pages for 1 visitor, right? So you can see the disintermediation of content. The third thing for me is you have to understand what the value of your content is. And that means that the models with which we teach the market also need to change, because usage, I would say now, is a very poor determiner of value. Yeah. Because someone in strategy could use a piece of content once a year and the decision it makes could be hugely significant, where an analyst could be in the product every single day. So I think if you look at it from that, but historically, you know, many of our businesses have been proprietary in every sense. We only had our proprietary content and we sold it through our proprietary channels. So making sure that we do not, and I see this a lot in the industry, which is making the problem that I've just mentioned worse, is making sure we don't sign short-term licensing deals is really, really important. So there's some governance around that. So we have strong governance around all of our partnership opportunities. We're trying to be a buyer of content more than a seller through that channel, I think, for more predominantly at the moment. But there are occasions where, or more than occasions, where a partnership channel can accelerate your strategy and go to market. I think when you do it, you need to be intentional.
Yep.
So what you mustn't do is give away, the key obviously always is the customer. If you give away the customer and the user, you can't benefit from the intelligence of what they see and you get disintermediated. There are places in all of the markets we serve where we don't have the right to own the customer, and that's fine. So I think as long as you take that longer term piece, because the quality of your data, how often does it change? How valuable is the history and the archives? If it changes regularly, then you've got less of a risk. Mm. If it doesn't change much and your history has a huge value, if you sign a short-term licensing agreement, you've just helped train a large language model and you can never get it back. Long answer, but I wanted to say.
No, it's a good answer. It didn't quite answer the question, so I'm going to have another little go at that. Okay. But I think what you've done very well is help sort of create a framework of decision-making, which is good. And again, you don't have to give me specifics, but how specifically, have you engaged with partnership deals with AI models? Have you done some? Let's start there.
Not directly with AI models, but with customers that would use AI models.
Okay.
So, for example, one of the businesses I lead is an aviation business, formerly Flight Global, now called Cirium. If you Google a flight, we track every plane in the sky. Underneath it will say powered by Cirium. Why have we done that? Well, that content to a degree can be found elsewhere anyway. That wasn't the unique part of the proposition. So that would be a place where we have done a deal. Would we go and license all of our unique content to ChatGPT? Absolutely not.
Okay, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you, that's helpful. I'm interested to know what your view on this is, John, and what you've done at William Reed.
We've done no deals.
No deals.
For a number of reasons. We're at the bottom end of the queue. So everyone wants to talk to the big newspapers first. I was with a couple of people from
Washington. Is it that nobody's asked you to do a deal? Is that
well, we're waiting to be asked, we say. We haven't been asked yet. I'm not overly bothered that we haven't been asked, because do we want to put our content in a form on those models where we're potentially losing control of it? I kind of take Sean's view that he was expressing that they're here to stay, got to deal with it. There's no point crying into your pillow about the whole thing. Google wasn't a business model, it was a channel. If that's sort of just gone away, we need to open up other channels to do things.
Yeah.
But my big kind of concern about doing deals now is it sort of feels like 1960, and I don't want to sell all my songs to Northern Songs.
Yes.
So I'll probably end up buying them back.
Yes.
So I want to think a bit longer about it. They're stealing our content anyway.
Yep.
So we'll see how it pans out, is my kind of take.
Look, I think you're absolutely right. 1960, but also I was chatting to Amanda Barnes earlier, and she quite rightly said that it's reminding her of when the internet first came along, and media players, in a lot of cases, thought, great, I'm going to give my content away for free. This is a gift to the world or whatever. And then clearly for the next 20, 25 years, we've been clawing it back and charging.
Yeah, and there are big newspapers, the ones I've been talking to, Washington Post most recently, they kind of just think, well, we just got some money. It's a bit like my daughter selling something on Vintage. She can't believe how much cash she got. It's a bonus ball. And they're just going to wriggle out of it and do another deal and another deal. So it's sort of, for those big players, I don't think it's such a big thing. Small specialist B2B companies like us, our content is our IP, and we have to really think very carefully about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Nicola, have you done any deals?
We've just done our first one, which is about putting our content into another service, so our content appears in a different place in our customer's user journey than we can get to directly. So it's when people are a service that looks at mixed media modelling and advertising. And at that point, they would like to know what Walk or Lions has to say on that subject. And so we've allowed them to license some of our content for that, but very intentionally.
Yes.
And it took me a while to get my head round how dangerous, what I should worry about.
Yes.
But I think we're quite happy to have started our first attempt.
But there's a real theme here, isn't there? Intentional, small, cautious. Hooray.
Not a big deal for us. I guess some of our customers have put it into their LLMs or whatever, and we changed the sort of terms so that if they want to cancel, they've got to find a way of taking it all out. So it's an interesting way of not getting cancelled.
Very good. So we're doing the downsides at the moment. We're going to move on to the fabulous stuff in a second. So broadly, not doing many deals with AI companies. How about protecting the precious content and value that you're creating, whether it's in data or insight? Dean, I'm gonna start with you, because everything in your business is about this.
So I touched on it in the first one. I think you first of all have to understand the value of the content. I don't think that this type of pressure is unique. We've faced this before, right? The large language models today, but we have other data aggregators or software providers that wanted to take our content and competitors' content to create an advantage. So I don't see large language models as any different to that, only to your point, as soon as you give the keys away, you can't get them back and the genie is out of the bottle. So that's why I think we should think so heavily up front. The key, though, is, and it always has been key, and you'll probably say I'm not answering this question again, but it's what we're here for, is how do we create uniqueness and differentiation for our customers? And it's been touched on before. And if our content is truly unique, then it is differentiated, and you can put a moat around it, and you have to try and protect that.
So what's the moat? What are you doing to put the moat? I mean, real either technical solutions or other solutions?
Well, so we're fortunate in a lot of our LexisNexis risk business that we don't actually give our source content to our customers, because we've created a level of capability and analytics on top of it, so our customers only get the derived content.
Got it.
Right, so that really helps. There is a portfolio of businesses we have which sit with me. I say unfortunately, because they are more susceptible where our customers get our raw content.
Yeah.
So we're in this paradox at the moment where our customers want that raw content to use in large language models, but you need to look at the long-term value of that deal that you're doing. And typically we see at the very high end of the market, our bigger customers like Google or BASF, they would want to try and do something themselves. So they want our licensing. So very specifically, we would allow them to do that as long as it's only an internal version to them of the LLM and not an open model. And by the way, the same is true for our staff.
Yep.
We have internal models that our teams are allowed to use because it's within our environment.
It doesn't go everywhere.
And it doesn't go. But those external models, we would never want our content to be gone forevermore, because...
So it's contractual. Your defence is sort of contractual there and restricting how it's used.
Yeah. The thing we're struggling with actually is getting ahead of it.
Okay.
So because you don't want customers to feel that you are just saying no.
Yeah.
Because that's inflexible.
Yeah.
And so training our go-to-market organisation on how we engage with the customer to learn more about what they're doing becomes really important, because that also helps drive our product and content roadmaps. Because if they're trying to do it, that's an opportunity where we can create more value again.
Got it. John, earlier you shared 3 fabulous how to protect your content tips. Will you share them with the audience?
Do you want Dracula first? Or?
I definitely want Dracula.
Okay, so I wouldn't claim ownership of these. I've picked them up at various conferences. The first one, the Dracula one, is it's Halloween, Dracula rings your doorbell. And in sort of the world we're living in, you need to have zero trust policy. So you wouldn't let Dracula in until you checked he wasn't Dracula, basically. So that's something that one of our kind of suppliers, Lucky, gave us. And so that's really zero trust bot blocking. And so where we're looking at that is people have heard things like Cloudflare blockers there, or Fastly. We're looking at a product called Datadome. And then on top of Datadome, we can put other products that behave a bit like Cloudflare, where we could ask for money or payment or block access. The one we're looking at is Tollbit in that regard. So that's one example. I think the other really simple one, which I think The Economist, amongst others, is doing, is actually changing the terms of service on the site to make sure that it's explicitly a service for humans, not robots. So if you have any problems down the line, you can say, well, you ignored this particular message in my terms of service. And that seems to be a way of not sort of protecting yourself, but giving you a potential position in the future. And then the other thing that we have started doing quite a lot of recently, very recently, is honeypot pages. So pages that aren't actually published out onto the website in the sense that users can't find them. The only traffic on those pages are going to be bots. We then look at what those bots are and we try and put names on them. And the real challenge at the moment is there's so many bots. It's increased from 500 to 1,500 to 2,000. Very often they're kind of subcontracted and anonymous, so you don't know where they're coming from. And the big elephant in the room is Google Gemini, because everybody's letting Google in because of AI search optimization and things like that. But in effect, you've got Dracula coming in on the tails of, Snow White.
Yeah.
And it's not a particularly nice situation to be in. And certainly if you talk to Tollbit and people like that, they see Gemini as possibly the worst behaved robot of all.
I think that's a brilliant point. Thank you for those. And talking about Google and search, we're still on the bads. We're about to come to the goods, but this is a bad. In most cases, search is down massively for the reasons that we all know, that we get to get the value from what AI has said rather than actually going into the site. So is that continuing to decline? And so therefore, should we block Gemini as well because that search has gone and we need to find other ways of bringing people to the site?
We wouldn't block Google. So we're taking Dracula as a given in that instance.
Okay.
But I think the point is that if you look at the search landscape, certainly traffic has reduced. Traffic for us was important for ad revenue.
Yeah.
Ad revenue is important, but is becoming less important. That's not to say we don't want ad revenue, but certainly the level of unknown traffic, ad revenue that we had in the past isn't something that we necessarily want to return to.
Yeah.
We want to be focused on known users and building profiles of what they're doing. So I think in the round, it's something you just got to accept. If you look at the search ranks, we're still number one. So whilst our traffic might have gone down, everyone else's traffic's gone down.
Yep.
And we're still seen as a leading source or a number one source. Yep. And so, I think we just have to change the story. And as I said, Google isn't a business model, never was a business model. It was just a channel, and channels change all the time.
Yeah.
Social is more important now. Apps are going to be more important. Newsletters, a killer app, is very underutilized. And so I think we've got alternatives. So it's quite a positive environment where it's forcing a change that maybe we got a bit lazy about. We were too reliant on Google traffic. Yeah. And actually now we're having to deal with it. We're finding alternative sources that are more reliable.
Got it. Thank you. Okay. I'm going to change tack slightly now, and I want to hear from you, Christopher, because you have a good story and a good news product development story. Yeah. Will you share it, please? So
our business, we make money really by telling people where their next dollar comes from, and that is in particular about tracking projects. So about 15 years ago, we set up a whole load of people in America to track projects taken from the capital improvement programs of water utilities across the US. And it was a complete disaster. It cost far too much to pay people to download these things, search for the information, pull it out, put it in a database, compared to what we could sell it. And then about a year or so ago, our US correspondent, who has a master's in English literature, he's got no sort of particular logical bent, started to create lists of projects by scraping using Python, these capital improvement programs. By the, sort of like April this year, he'd got a huge spreadsheet, which he then converted into a database. We then started to add the council decisions from the council minutes so that it became a bit more of a tracking project, so you could see the project and then see how far along it was. And then in July, when they launched the new version of ChatGPT, we could actually start listening into live council meetings and getting the results up, as they happen. But, we had to put a percentage accuracy, or at least expected percentage accuracy judgment in some of that, because, one of the first council meetings we listened into went on for 11 hours and 3 people were arrested. And it was about a desalination plant that there was a lot of opposition to. And ChatGPT really couldn't understand what was going on.
So were they really arrested? Or
they were. They stood and they went to the, this is the funny thing. I also published a little newsletter, and we had one of our editor actually in the meeting. And he wrote a great color piece about how these people had, come up and told the council leader to, fuck off. And the police came up and handcuffed them while they were raving at them. But then, I didn't realize this, but this was also something we were trying to scrape. And it was just not scrapable. But anyway, we
B2B is fabulous. Anyone who's in consumer,
anyway, we then launched this as a product last month. We, obviously selling subs for these things takes a bit of time. We got our first sub in from this. Basically the whole thing had cost less than 100 grand. We got in our first sub at a 40 grand sub. Pretty nice. And, we're also able to sort of, just continually grow it. So, for example, one of the people we were talking to says, he wanted to get an idea of the value of these contracts and value of the individual pumps or valves or whatever it is going into them. We sort of scratched our heads, asked our man who wrote the colour piece in America how we might do this. He said, sometimes you get bills of materials published alongside the tenders. So within 48 hours, our sales guy had actually scraped all of these bills of materials relevant to the kinds of projects we were doing and built a model for predicting the cost of each equipment line, from that. And that, this is absolutely cutting out the loop. And the sales guy is actually building the product for you, vibe coding it sort of almost overnight.
I mean, it is incredible. And there's a business that I know well called Glenigan, which does very similar things.
Same sort of stuff. And this is it. We're taking on the giants.
You are absolutely taking on the giants. I mean, I haven't looked after Glenigan for a number of years, so it may well have changed. But hundreds of people in our research teams tracking the projects, verifying the projects, zillions of research calls. And there you are, 48 hours later. Glad I don't own Glenigan anymore.
Yeah.
Nicola. So your customers, they sell creativity. That's the product that they sell. And I know that there's an awful lot of angst, let's say, within creative industries about the use of AI and confusion of it's helpful and inspirational versus it's taking jobs, it'll commodify it, blah, blah, blah. How are you helping your customers kind of get through the choices that they have to make?
Yeah, I think you can't open the paper if you're in our world without reading about the dangers of AI or how it can save money and all of these things. And I think fundamentally, Walk and Lions believe in the power of human-led creativity. We really believe that creativity is like a secret sauce. And we understand and we recognise that AI has amazing opportunities to enhance and accelerate that creative journey. And there's so much evidence that says, like, brands who really put creativity at the heart of their marketing actually spend more on marketing, get more back, because quite frankly, it just works better. And so what we have to do is try and help brands be able to understand when they should be encouraging the use of AI and when they shouldn't. And it's a very difficult thing. So somebody was telling me the other day, it's a very high-end luxury clothing brand which ran a campaign recently that would have taken them 5 months to create and £1.5 million. And they did it in 3 weeks and 50 grand. It's like, they can't ignore these savings. But we also want the brands to be very transparent and the agencies to be very clear about when they're using AI and how they're using AI. Because what we're finding is that the technology allows you to do many things. Actually, the consumer doesn't necessarily always agree with, and the brands don't necessarily see that they would get a backlash. And so one of the ways, and a really good example of that is, it's really easy to create an advert using AI to a certain extent now that shows a diverse mix of people involved in it.
Yeah.
But one of the arguments is if all the people behind the camera are white, from the UK or from the US, that's not a good state to be in. So we're constantly trying to showcase through our subscription services the balance between what is a real opportunity and what is the potential danger, so that our brands and agencies can weigh up those decisions and decide how to use the technology in the best possible way.
Are you able to sort of share with the audience what is good use of AI and creativity and what is not?
I think that all really depends. I think some of it is about, you need to still have that human truth. So people still need to connect with an audience in a very meaningful way. But the efficiencies you get for the speed of doing that is absolutely, you need to be able to do this quicker and be more agile for it. So I think there's no fixed way, there's no fixed definition of any of these things, but it's about how to use the tools and how to say that you're using the tools.
And what about the Cannes Lions categories, so the awards that we're giving? Has AI been either recognised or named in any? Are there any new awards
So that's the other side of things. So Cannes Lions obviously creates a benchmark for what great creativity looks at, and it's incredibly prestigious to win a Lion. It's like winning an Oscar in film. And so we don't have a Lion for AI-generated work because we believe that the AI technology, when used well, can be used at any point through the creative journey. But what we are encouraging people is to say what they're doing, how they're doing it, when it's used, and to check that if they're using AI in their work, that AI is not augmenting the results or making it seem bigger or better than it actually is. So it's that truth, it's that being very, very clear on how and when it's used, and then that will be considered in the jury rooms.
Okay, interesting. Thank you. Right, okay. I'm going to do a quick fire round now to try and get as many tips and tricks as possible. First, could you each please give me your top 3 AI initiatives that helped with your internal processes and efficiencies? John?
The first one is something rather unimaginatively called Marbot, or Marketing Robot. I'm sure we could have had a better name, but anyway, that's what it's called. It helps marketers produce targeted emails more quickly, and the way it's resulted is 50% less generation time, better click-through rates, better open rates. That's number 1.
Nice.
Number 2, in and around our art platform, we have built something that, with the search traffic we are getting, is optimized for EEAT, which is Google's kind of algorithm for experience, expertise, authority, and trustworthiness. So it's scanning the article before it goes up to check it's hitting those marks. So that's helping maintain search traffic. And then the final one is kind of something that's come out of Flume training that we've been doing, sales training, where some of the salespeople have actually built in Copilot, which everyone has, a kind of ranking tool that can look at a sales call, a bit like Gong, and rate it against 7 criteria they've been trained on.
Nice.
So those 3 things, I think, are really good examples of embedding AI in workflow.
Yeah, lovely. Thanks, John. Nicola?
We have similar to your Marbot thing, it's a brand tone of voice agent, which actually our sales teams use because our sales teams are selling one of 5 products at any point. So it allows them to write their emails and put their presentations in the style and the tone of the brand that they're leading with, which has been quite interesting. The second one is our Walk Media team. We have sort of 100 years worth of advertising spend data from about 100 countries around the world, all in different formats, helpfully. We run that data very regularly. It used to take, I spoke to the media team, 1 to 2 hours to run some relatively basic stuff that they used to do. And our media analyst tool was reduced that to about 20 or 30 seconds.
Oh, wow.
Which has been really transformative for what else they could do with the 2 hours at that time.
Lovely.
And then the third thing is our renewal churn model. We have a lot of information about our customers in a lot of different places and a lot of different systems. Our account development team have 120, 150 clients to look after. It was really difficult for them to go and figure out logically which clients were most at risk of churn. So our data science team took all of the different data points that they would want to go and look at and created a model that then chucks out. So you can say, tell me anybody expiring in the next 6 months who are paying sort of slightly more than the average for their cohort, where people haven't logged in or the seats aren't filled, and it will chuck them out a shorter list to look at, which improved our ability to really focus on the people that we think behaviourally will churn.
If I had more time, I would be asking for the results of all of these initiatives, but maybe that's next year. Dean, 3 quick ones, please.
Try and pick some different. Customer service, internal and external. So an example, we have 37,000 staff. 2 years ago, there were 250,000 calls to the help desk of how to book holiday in Workday. That's something that a human doesn't need to do. So customer success, and for our customers to a degree, and just knowing when to hand them over is the right thing. Some part of content aggregation or creation, like running analytical models, is fairly standard. So how do we put our analysts in the place of most potential, doing what they love and where they add value over churning spreadsheets? And probably the most impactful is the work in sales. So using platforms like Gong, we work with them on their analytical model. So again, it's aligned to the sales organisation. Our average Gong user saves 5 hours a week.
Ooh.
So that means that you're not putting anything in the CRM system. It means that feedback about products are going straight to products. And it also means, and weirdly, Meta are using this in Europe, their AI forecast is 11% more accurate than their sales forecast based on the language of customer meetings. So they're the three, I would say.
That's great. I've got so many more questions on that. Christopher.
So, I mean, I guess one of the problems of our business has always been, because the water sector is usually quite public sector oriented, we don't make the margins that everyone else does in B2B, but it does mean that it's very public. And so it is all scrapable, so we are doing an awful lot of scraping. A second thing is we've got everyone sort of trained to do that and understand. You don't, obviously, vibe coding is a sort of funny thing, but you've got to sort of understand how, what you can do with Python and how a database works and all that sort of thing. So there's a lot of sort of upskilling of everyone, on both the sales and the content side. And the third thing, we do the business with, upgrading our sales bots so that they do better, guide people around the site when they're doing demonstrations better than our staff do.
Very good. Okay, so just in our last couple of minutes, pretend that I'm sitting with a bit of paper, blank bit of paper, and at the top it says AI to-do list, and I've done nothing yet. What one thing would you tell me that I had to do to start my AI journey?
Vectorization of data and content, because it's like making it three-dimensional. You can look at it from all sorts of different angles, and in doing that, you see the real value and sometimes the hidden value of the content you've got. So I think that's the number one thing to do.
That's your number one. Lovely. Thanks, John. Nicola.
I think for us, we had lots of ideas when we started using it, and there were lots of ideas that were really rubbish. And so I think spending a bit more time about listening and thinking before actually acting. So I think we could have saved ourselves some thinking time of things that weren't very good ideas in the first place.
Thank you. Dean.
Colin kicked us off, I think, by saying there's a lot of people listening and not many people talking. I would just be curious, while machines are getting better at being machines, we humans need to be better at being human. But humans with machines will beat humans without machines. The genie's out the bottle. Just create the space for our teams to play and get used to it in their day-to-day work and life, rather than just continue to turn the handle and do what we've always done. Because it's coming, right? It's here. It's not coming, it's here.
Yep.
So learning how we can lean into that, I think, and creating the space and curiosity is my one.
Lovely. Thank you. Christopher.
I guess I'd say, first of all, don't use a vendor and do it in 2 weeks. We had a terrible experience with a vendor who was going to bring all of our sites together into a single platform, and they're going to do it in 9 months, and they're going to, charge us like, 750 grand. And 2 years later, they turn up and say, actually, we can't do this. And it just completely screwed our business from top to bottom. But as I say, we've got other people who are, internally are able to actually get what's going on and vibe code things and, take advice from the various LLMs about, how to do different things. And I think that the days of these big monolithic IT projects, which are going to be transformational, are absolutely finished. You've got to be doing it, on the fly in 2 weeks. You must, there must never be a deadline for these IT things, which is longer than that. Otherwise, things will be so different with the LLMs and what have you by the time you get down to doing it, that it's all wasted.
I love that. And it's really liberating, that, isn't it? Because it's...
Well, you haven't depended on some bloody vendor transforming your business.
Do you want to name them? Okay. Very good. Look, we've finished this session, but thank you so much. I've taken out a lot. I'm surprised by the number of deals, as in how small the number of deals are, but I think that's great. I really took away about protecting and having brilliant content, and I'm really taking away that this is brilliant for sales and marketing, and I love just get it done in 2 weeks. Thank you very much.
Thanks for listening, and to Dean, Nicola, Christopher, John and Natasha for joining us on the day. We've got more exciting events coming up this year. From the Monetising B2B Forum in May, which, by the way, booking is now open for, you can see flashesandflames.com for more, to plans for our summer newsletter and podcast-focused gathering, and a return of the AI Forum next November, and of course, our podcast and newsletter awards. If you want to read our key takeaways article from this panel, or sign up to our newsletter, you can find both at voices.media. On next week's podcast, Hearst's MD of Content, Toby Wiseman, will be sharing what AI means to them. So make sure you're following this podcast on your pod app to get it once it goes live. Until then, goodbye.